Hi Virgos, welcome to your April 2019 Tarology 33 reading. We have a Celtic cross spread in front of us as always. You got some extra cards that came out there, and then we also have two Oracle cards that we'll look at after the main spread, and a Mudra card. So definitely a lot to get to. Let's get started with the main spread one by one. And in the main situation position, you have the Eight of Wands and the Hierophant. So, Eight of Wands represents a lot of communication, a lot of action being taken in general as well. It doesn't necessarily have to always be communication. And then the Hierophant card is actually the major arcana card for Taurus. So we'll break that down in a few ways with this combination. One could certainly be the most obvious one we could go to is maybe there's a Taurus in your life that you're going to be exchanging a lot of communication with or taking a lot of action with. Another is if we look at what's going on with Taurus right now. They have Uranus in their sign again, and Mars will still be there for a bit. Well, actually, no, right when April kicks off, it's going to move into Gemini. So really this is just focusing on the Uranus energy in that regard, and that's your 9th house. So this could be actual travel plans being made, and usually that's long distance travel if we're talking 9th house. This also could represent organizations, long-standing organizations, corporations, you name it. So maybe some of you are actually applying to such a place, maybe even applying to go back to school, right? Maybe with the Uranus energy moving into your 9th house, some of you have got an impetus to go back and obtain a degree in something. And another way this could play out as well is Taurus being ruled by Venus. Let's not forget that Venus will be moving through your opposite sign this month as well. So that could be what that's pointing to there. Maybe a lot of communication with others. It could be related to romance if that's the case, but could just be partnerships of all kinds. So those are the main energies to look at there. In the challenger obstacle position, you guys got the Knight of Swords. So this is actually a card for Gemini, and similar to what we did with the Hierophant, we'll look at what that could mean as well. As I was saying, Mars actually is going to move into the sign of Gemini, so this could be what that's pointing to. And then for you guys, Gemini would be your 10th house. So this could definitely be, again, pointing to career. Maybe you're making a career change of some kind. Maybe possibly going for a promotion within the organization you're already with, or applying to work for a new organization. Like I said, generally speaking, it'd be a rather large company if that's the case. One that's at least well established and been around for a long time. And with this coming up in the challenger obstacle position, there could be some difficulty around that. Maybe that's what is going on. Maybe you're clearing up some confusion. If you'd initially applied for it, let's say while Mercury was still in retrograde, right? Then okay, usually that's not necessarily doom and gloom, but it could just be little dumb mistakes made here and there. You thought they needed 3 forms of identification, and they only needed, or they thought they needed 2, but they really needed 3, or okay, you forgot to sign one of the pages from the application, all kinds of random things that could be going on like that. So now you could be trying to communicate with them about how to rectify the situation. Another thing this could be pointing to as well, Gemini being ruled by Mercury, this could just be saying that until that Mercury retrograde energy fully clears up, it could be a challenge to have clear communication with this, whether it is an actual Taurus, like I said, or maybe some issues with travel, and possibly issues with big organizations as well. Given that it's April, if you guys live in the States, it could even be something related to your taxes, for example. Maybe with the new tax changes that went into effect this year, maybe you thought you got everything right, but maybe you forgot to send them a form or didn't specify something, and there's back and forth regarding that. So that's some of the ways that these could be playing out. What adds to the element of it possibly being related to all of that Mercury energy going on with the retrograde and the square it's making, the conjunction with Neptune, all kinds of stuff going on, is the fact that we have In the foundation position, the Seven of Cups. So, to me, this is not seeing things clearly, obviously. The way I always say it is if we look at this person, we see nothing but a shadow there, right? So I always say that they're in the dark about something. So whereas we might be able to see all of what's going on in these cups very clearly from our perspective, from theirs, they might have no clue what's in these cups, right? So they could just be pointing to general confusion. And again, like I said, the astrology certainly seems to support that, because kicking off the month, you're still going to have that energy of the Mercury conjunct Neptune energy in your opposite sign. And then close to mid-month, Mercury is once again going to square Jupiter. So that's, another tense aspect there that could really affect how you're seeing things and communications. So with this in the foundation, it could just be saying that that's energy that you're going to be dealing with for most of the month. So just something to be mindful of there and be aware. Maybe that's what that Knight of Swords in the challenge position is saying as well. Because you might not be seeing things clearly, don't necessarily, leap and come across as possibly combative, or just, take a leap in general, right? In a certain way without doing your due diligence. And you guys are very good at doing that normally anyway, but I feel the need to at least mention that as a warning, given some of the other cards and astrological energies at play. And we do have the Fool at the bottom of the deck too, so you could very well be ready to make some kind of leap, but just be a little bit careful about that. All right, in the past position, got three major players here. You got the Chariot card, the Magician card, and the World card. So, the way that I initially read this, but we'll go through a few different scenarios. For me, this being the major arcana card for Cancer, I always think of these as South Node, North Node, because Cancer, when we refer to the nodes in astrology, we're referring to the lunar nodes. So when I see this, that's how I always view it. It's like that North Node, South Node energy. And then beyond that, I also view this very much as a South Node card for me, the Magician. Like I said, this is when you start your journey after the Fool, right? You get to the Magician stage, and this is where you're able to choose an element, right? Let's say that that's your South Node, which is things you come into this life with already. And then the World card I view as my North Node card, which is to say, okay, you've successfully completed your life path to that point. So I almost even view this as like that's the soul contract, and then this is your soul contract and your diploma, if you will, right? Saying the successful completion of what you were meant to do in this life. So not to put as heavy of a spin on it in that regard, but with these three together, to me, this is definitely pointing me anyway to the nodal shifts. So if we look at where given that this is past position, we could be talking about when the South Node moved from Aquarius into Capricorn. So maybe, you'd left a certain job behind in the past, right? And maybe this could even be about getting back pay for that. Maybe they owed you a certain amount of money because you had vacation time signed up or something like that, and they still haven't given it to you. So like, where's this money I was supposed to get, right? And then the North Node would have shifted from your 12th house to your 11th. So that could be saying that you've successfully completed, finding out how not to get in your own way, essentially, right? So that could be what that's about there. Just saying that in the past, you really did some good inner work and successfully completed it. And now the nodes are in your 11th house and 5th house. So this could be bringing creative projects from your past back around, could be reevaluating situations with children, whether you have children, or maybe if you're considering if you want to have them or not. That's a theme that could be playing out for you with the South Node moving there now. And your North Node, could be making brand new connections with friends that are helpful and help you progress in life in some way, even if they, just lessons through being around them, right? Doesn't have to be anything that they particularly do. Just being in that energy might help you grow and experience certain things maybe you hadn't experienced before. And obviously with the Chariot as well, we do have to point out that there could have been some kind of long distance travel taking place too. All right. In the present position, we have the Page of Cups. So to me, this is typically pointing to an offer being made. Usually it's a love offer. And the way I always describe the page energies is, to me, they have that 1 foot in, 1 foot out type vibe to them, and you almost see that in their stance as well. So this could be saying, someone might make a love offer to you and they might be genuine about it, but even they're like a little bit shaky about, all right, is this what I really want or not, right? Or maybe that's the vibe that they give off. So you might, not take them seriously because you're like, okay, it doesn't even seem like they know what they want, so how seriously should I take it, right? And then, of course, I always say to people, there's that fish in the cup. So I always say, obviously there could be something fishy about it, right? There is something a little nefarious about what's going on with the offer. It's like, all right, if you want to offer that cup to someone, maybe you want to take a look at it and make sure you cleared everything out before you give it to them. So that's how I view that. And it doesn't necessarily point to a specific water sign for me. The page is just the water energy in general. So even though you might think Pisces with that fish there, rather than it being an actual Pisces, it could just be, again, an indicator of the energy going on, which, like I said, your ruler being conjunct Neptune could have you in a bit of a fog, and then when it squares Jupiter, somewhere between the 10th and 15th of the month, I believe, that could be, again, where you might not see things too clearly. So something to keep in mind with that. And, if it's career again, too, it could be they romanticize an offer. Maybe they make the job sound a lot better than it would actually be. They make the perks sound better, whatever the case may be. That could be what's going on for you guys in the present. All right, and in the near future position, we have the Sun card, and we have the Two of Swords. So these two cards together, if the timing worked out a little bit better, I might even be saying that this could be pointing to that Libra full moon, which is going to be happening. I'm recording this right before the sun goes into Aries. So basically, right when the sun goes into Aries, there's going to be a full moon in Libra, which, for some of you, yes, it could be your second house, but I'm thinking because it's at such an early degree of Libra, pretty much at 0 degrees, this is still going to be a first house full moon for a lot of you. So it could definitely bring some things to light for you guys, and also, you might be putting some things behind you if that's the case as well. Around that time, too, Venus and Mars are going to be squaring each other, so that's going to be, it's going to be opposite Chiron as well, so that energy as we're moving into April could be a bit tricky, so keep that in mind, too. We have already covered, the possibility for not necessarily seeing things clearly. All of that could definitely play a part in it as well. But separating from the astrology, the sun energy could just be saying that this is the feeling that you're going to have in the near future, feeling a bit more playful, a little more light, right? Maybe not taking things as seriously. And with that Two of Swords energy, it could even be saying that you're willfully choosing not to see something, right? So it could just be you abandoning responsibility in some area, or some part of your life, and just like, you know what, I'm just going to go out, do my thing, have fun, right? Kick back, relax, which is fine, but, with that card combined with the Two of Swords, I would see the Two of Swords almost as cautionary, like, okay, you might choose to just willfully not look at something that you should be looking at, but keep in mind, that might not be the best thing to do in the long term. All right. In the position of your influence on the situation, we have the Ten of Pentacles. So, this is actually a Virgo card for starters. It represents the last 10 degrees of Virgo. So if you guys have your placement in those degrees, this could be pointing to you even more. But the way I look at this is obviously financial success. So again, let's say if it was back pay, right, from an old employer, like I said, okay, maybe that money finally comes your way. Or maybe this is contract negotiations that you're going through with a prospective new employer. And yes, maybe it takes some time to get everything sorted out with all of the energies we mentioned that we'll be dealing with that I already went through. Maybe it gets cleared up and you're actually satisfied with how it ends up in the end. I sometimes do mention this as a cautionary card as well, though. To me, basically, all of the tens in the tarot have a, I wouldn't say blatant cautionary message in them. I mean, Ten of Swords definitely seems that way, Ten of Wands, right? But Ten of Cups, I don't think really has a cautionary message as much, and Ten of Pentacles either. But I view this as, let's say, you know, most people make the connection that, okay, this is a person that even looks like the Hermit a little bit, right? This is a person, and then this is their, you know, one of them is their child, and then this is their grandchild there, right? So they just view it as a full family setup. But another way I think of it too is, you know, if we don't automatically make that connection that these people are related to this person, this could be pointing to someone who really threw themselves into their career for a living, right? And they got all of the success that came along with that. But now, you know, when they get in their older age, they might be looking at the situation like, well, you know, what if, right? Looking back, like, what if I had put more energy towards my love life? Could I have had a family like that, you know? One of those types of deals. And like I said, given that you do have the South Node in your fifth house, like I said, some of you could be reconsidering, do you want to possibly have kids, right? Maybe that was something you completely considered off the table in the past, and now you're really looking at it again like, well, could I, should I, right? So that could be what's going on there. But either way, overall, this is generally speaking a pretty good energy to have, especially related to finances, if that's how it's resonating for you. Now, in the in the position of the environment's influence on the situation, you guys got the Seven of Swords. It's usually no good way to spin this card, right? I mean, it does represent the last 10 degrees of Aquarius, and I think everything's going to be pretty much out of Aquarius by the time we get into April. Yeah, I think maybe at the time of recording this, maybe Venus is still in those degrees of Aquarius, so maybe this is a deception, for example, that takes place during that time. Again, with the Pentacle energy, the Taurus energy there, it would be Venusian and finance related. So let's say it was a job offer, going back to that theme again, right? Maybe they lowball you with an offer. And they tell you, oh, we can only pay you this much, knowing that technically they could give you that as well, but, you know, they try to lowball you with the offer and make it seem like it's the best they could do, right? So if that's the case, maybe the warning that we had there with the Knight of Swords and the Seven of Cups and all that is to say, okay, if something seems off about their offer, don't accept the first offer, right? You know, let's not say play hardball per se, but at least feel them out and say, okay, yeah, I don't know if that's going to be good enough for me, right? And see if they come back with something better, because that's what I'm really seeing there. If we're going to restrict this to finances at the time, which is to say, okay, they tell you, oh, we could give you this amount of money. They really could give you those two additional. So let's say, all right, just as a rough example, let's say each of these swords represent $10,000, right? They say to you, oh, we can only pay you $50,000. But realistically, they could go up as high as 70. But of course, they're going to try to make it sound like to you, oh yeah, that's the best that they could do, right? So if something seems off with these energies we see there, instead of willfully just being overly eager to say, oh yes, that sounds amazing, I'm going to take it, right, with the sun energy, and willfully turning a blind eye to the fact that you know they probably could give you more than that, maybe you might want to stay in your power a bit there and see if they could come back with something better. And maybe that's what that Ten of Pentacles energy points to there. Now, let's look at this from a relationship perspective, right? Because that's the first thing everyone always thinks when they see the Seven of Swords. So, you know, I had to give you guys a little bit of cliffhanger there. But what I always say with this is, to me, this represents, I view those two swords as the actual relationship, right? So this person, basically, these are the other things that they do. So it doesn't have to necessarily be other people that they're seeing, right? It could just be them not putting their half into the relationship, letting the other person do all the work, knowing that, you know what, I can do whatever I want to do. So like I said, even if this isn't that they're cheating on you, this could be, oh, they have all their hobbies and all these other things that they, I mean, yes, you should pursue those things to an extent in a relationship anyway, but they might be going overboard with it and leaving you with all the heavy lifting, which is to say, okay, they know deep down, you know what, I could do all these things. I don't have to worry about maintaining anything with the relationship, because when I'm done with all that, I could come back. This relationship is always going to be there for me, right? So in that regard, it could be saying, try not to make yourself too readily available for someone, right? Maybe there's someone who you feel, you know, this playful, happy connection with, but you're overlooking some of the other things that aren't right with the connection, right? And like I said, with all these Pisces energies going on right now, it would totally make sense if that's what you're dealing with. And this would be a good time to clear that up as well as we move through the month of April. Because let's say that these two swords are, again, these same two swords that we see here, right? And this is essentially you turning a blind eye to the fact that you know something's wrong, but you're like, nope, I'm going to hold on to this relationship no matter what. I don't care. They make me feel great when I'm with them, and you know they're doing something that's not serving you right, but you know you're choosing to overlook that on purpose. But on the bright side, here's what I will say. Regardless of what's going on, let's keep in mind that you always want to look at where a card lays in the spread. This person is running right towards the sun, and they're not looking at it. So the obvious way that I would say that is if someone's doing you wrong, whether it's in finances or relationship, they're going to get burned, right? They're going to run right into the sun. I mean, we could see that sunlight, right, with the yellow background. We know the sun's coming right for them, but they're not even looking in that direction. So, you know, they're going to end up getting burned. And when they do, try to make sure you don't have the blindfolds on so you don't totally miss the fact that they did that, right? All right, in the hopes or fears position, we have two cards. If I could freaking pick them up. There we go. All right. You got the Three of Wands and the Queen of Cups. So, again, you know, I more mentioned this in regard to finances, but with this as a hope, right? This could be you saying you're waiting for your ships to come in and hoping for a better offer, right? So I gave this initially in the context of love, and then I gave more of a finance angle with this card, but let's combine the two. So let's say that this was a love offer. Someone came at you with an offer that felt more like a Page of Cups vibe, and you're like, you know, trying not to budge on that offer, hoping that they come back with an offer that you could take more seriously, a Queen of Cups type offer, right? On the flip side of that, if we're going to say that this is the job offer, same thing, right? They gave you an offer that you know seemed a little low. You're like, you know what? I know what my worth is. I'm going to wait here and see if they come back with something better. So that's really what I'm seeing with these two cards. I should point out that this is an Aries card, the middle 10 degrees of Aries. So essentially right when April kicks off, that could be the energy that you're in, you know, waiting for this offer to come through. These are definitely positive cards to have in this position, but I will point out, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is going to play out that way. It is just the hopes or fears position, so it's more something that's on your mind. All right. And in the outcome position, we have the Three of Pentacles. So, you know, it's a minor arcana card. But the way I view this card actually is Venus meeting with Saturn. So there's two cards where that happens. One is with the Three of Pentacles, one is with the Five of Pentacles. The energies look very different. But the reason being, to me, Saturn is the one who rules this card for the most part. And then Venus, to me, is like the visitor, right? So, you know, Saturn's going to always lend that stability, something that could stand the test of time. And then Venus comes in to give it a flair of something, you know, that you would find beautiful, that you would enjoy, right, and have pleasure in. So that's what I see as far as this goes. So this is something, again, if it's a job offer, right? If it's a company that stood the test of time, but maybe you have some negotiations you have to work through before you get to a point that you're happy with that card in the outcome position, it does look like you will get where you want it to be eventually with them. And then you could work towards, at that point, you feel like, all right, you're doing a job you're happy with, you're being compensated in a way that you're happy with, and you're able to build from there. In a relationship context, more or less the same concept. This is actually getting a relationship off to a successful start. So like I said, maybe it's someone that they weren't acting right necessarily, right? But you stood your ground. You're like, you know what? I'm going to wait for them to come at me with something more serious, more stable. That could be how that's playing out there. All right, but let's see what the oracle cards add to the mix here. We'll start with this one. You guys got round and round. There's the artwork for it, and the number is 25. Okay, it says essential meanings. The spiral quality of events when a lesson isn't quite integrated, cycles you are challenged to break, revisiting a pattern from a new perspective. The Oracle's message says the appearance of this card is a reminder that although it may appear that you've gone backward, the truth is that you are standing at a higher level looking down into your circumstances. You will learn something, do something better, and break a cycle set up in the past. You actually have a bird's eye view of your initial footprints and can access the wisdom and lessons learned. So that's a pretty good message there to say that, if you have gone through these things before, it's saying that, now you have more knowledge at hand to actually handle the situation better. All right, the relationship message says, are you wondering, how did I get here again? Does something feel familiar right now in your dynamic with others? Maybe a little too familiar? Don't be surprised that you found yourself repeating an old story with the same sort of person who may not look similar, but who attracted you because of your easy acquaintance with his or her qualities. Your relationship is a mix of what is good and what is potentially challenging. You have been drawn to this person through the perfection of Spirit's plan for your evolution. You may have circled back to an accustomed spot, a familiar place, but that's fine, as you get to do things again, only differently this time, for you learned something of great value since the last time around. How will you choose to behave now that you're aware? Remain curious and stay out of the blame game. So, again, that basically does point out some of the things that I had already said in the spread earlier, and, we could also point out the fact that the 7 there, like I said, that Pisces energy in your 7th house, which is your opposite sign of relationships, you could still, for Virgos in general, Virgo rising, sun, moon, whatever, the area of relationships can be a bit of a blind spot for them sometimes. And, when you get on the other side of it, it can be a beautiful thing as far as you could get a very spiritual, in tune connection with someone that you're very happy with. But, until you work through those lessons and get to that point, you can sometimes draw in people that are deceptive, or even just situations that you aren't seeing clearly where you might deceive yourself in some way regarding a person. So something to keep in mind there. All right, the prosperity message says, if you're in a scenario that appears to be an echo of something that's already happened in the past in your work life, it is because you're being invited to see what you couldn't see before. This is a perfect time for you to look at the deeper motives you have and your attraction to the opportunities and people who have entered your life to be part of your journey to prosperity. Who helps you navigate? Who sabotages you? Who supports you? What are the familiar signs and your responses to them when you find yourself in a repeat of a pattern of the past? It's a good time to get a coach or mentor who can help you see what you can't on your own. Repeat what works, not what doesn't. Then you will free yourself from the old cycles and cease going round and round. So there's that too, maybe there's someone that's in your environment. This could be an place of employment you're already in that has been doing some things to sabotage you, right? Maybe they've been giving you more work, knowing that they could also help to pick up the slack, but they're like, oh yeah, sorry, my hands are tied, I can't really do this. Hey Virgo, could you do this for me, right? I mean, they know how well you guys do at work, generally speaking, so that might be the dynamics in play too, and that could be holding you back in some way. So something to keep in mind there as well. All right, next we'll move on to the Spirit Animal Oracle card you guys got. And you got Dog Spirit, but it came up in reverse. So, to make our lives easier, we'll just flip it over to discuss it. But it said, be loyal to what you love, and the number is 19. So the fact that this came out in reverse, what they do is there's what's called a protection message that you read for when a card comes up in reverse in these oracle decks. So that's what I'll read. We'll see what it says. It says, loyalty to people and situations can turn into attachment that results in stagnation, enmeshment, and loss of integrity. Do you fear what will happen if you let a relationship evolve? Are you afraid that asking for a situation to change will make others see you as disloyal? Trust that when Dog Spirit appears, you are meant to accept the turning of the wheel of life and the changing of fortunes. If you feel you are being betrayed or are growing apart from someone, let Dog Spirit reconnect you with your commitment to love in all its forms. Perhaps a relationship is meant to evolve. Perhaps you are meant to evolve too, so that you can experience the growth for which your soul yearns. Your greatest loyalty is to love, so be open to all its many guises, including self-love. You deserve the best, and that is what Spirit wants for you. So, I mean, I feel like we pretty much had covered that when I got that weird vibe with the Seven of Swords, and then the fact that you had the two beneath the Sun card, saying that almost looks like that would have been those two, right? And then it's like, all right, you're overlooking something because maybe it's someone that I don't know, maybe you've been with them since you were kids, right? Maybe it's someone you've known almost your whole life, but, in the long run, it really is something that's a bit toxic. Or, like I said, someone that you might have felt like you've known them your whole life when you reconnected. And yes, maybe that's a good thing, but maybe there's a lot of toxicity there as well that you're overlooking. So something to keep in mind there. And like I said, the thing that I do like about where this card is like I said, it looks like they're running right toward the sun. So whatever deception is there, if any, it looks like it will come out on its own. So maybe that's what that Knight of Swords is saying there. You don't have to actively come at someone in an accusatory tone, but you should take those blindfolds off and at least look and see, all right, let me look at this clearly and see what's going on, because it looks like things are going to come to light in that regard. All right, well, actually, we have a Mudra card as well. Almost forgot to read that. So, for those of you guys who don't know, I've been pulling a Mudra card for each of the signs this year. And a Mudra is basically a pose or a gesture that you make with your hands while meditating. Usually, you want to hold it for at least 5 minutes. For those of you who meditate on a more regular basis, you could do half hour, 45 minutes, depending. And what they're for is basically to help clear up blockages, sometimes actual physical blockages, and other times could be just more on the, mental, emotional level. And the mudra you guys got is the Mahashirsha Mudra, and this is the actual pose or gesture itself right there that you would do. The keyword for this one is relief. And we'll take a look at the back of the card so you guys can take a screenshot or pause it to see what it has to say about the card. Alright, and I'll move it up so you can see the rest. Alright, it says relieves headaches, reduces tension in the eyes, breaks up congestion in the frontal sinuses, improves mental clarity. So the improves mental clarity is something you guys might actually benefit from. I mean, normally you guys are very sharp, but with that Seven of Cups energy in the foundation, and like we said, with your ruler doing all the crazy things that it's been doing in Pisces, maybe that would benefit you this month. What I'll do is I'll put the name of that mudra in the description as well if you guys wanted to look into that a little bit more. And if you guys want to book a personal reading with me, you could check out the description as well for a little bit more info on that. And if you want to follow me on Instagram, we have a little bit more fun with astrology and tarot there, so you can check that out. But aside from that, I'll see you guys next month. All right, bye.